Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial, which is going to be focused on creating an Amazon S3 bucket with CloudFormation. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that I want to bring your attention to is the documentation, which I will be sure to attach in the comment section below. So as you can see here, this is a documentation that pertains to AWS CloudFormation, specifically for creating an AWS S3 bucket. So as we can see, the AWS S3 bucket, so this string right here, this resource is going to create an Amazon S3 bucket in the AWS region where we create our AWS CloudFormation stack. Now, just an important notice to keep in mind here is that you can only delete empty buckets, okay, and deletion will fail for buckets that have contents, and this is going to be important to keep aware of if you plan on deleting your S3 bucket through CloudFormation. So just some out of scope information and background. But let's continue looking at the documentation here that pertains to creating an AWS S3 bucket resource through an AWS CloudFormation stack. So in terms of the syntax here, essentially what you're going to be doing is you're going to need to first of all create a CloudFormation template, which is going to have the necessary code for telling CloudFormation what it needs to create. So in our case, we want to create an Amazon S3 bucket, and we can either write this logic in this CloudFormation template in JSON, or we can write it in YAML. Now, I would highly recommend that you choose YAML because YAML is a lot cleaner and a lot more beginner friendly to understand, and even with myself with some experience with CloudFormation, I still prefer to use YAML. But you do have the option for those of you that prefer JSON. It's really up to you as to how you would like to go on ahead. Now, this would be the syntax that you would need to utilize in your CloudFormation template for creating an S3 bucket. Now, some more information on this. If you were to scroll down, you can see that there are various properties that you can attach accordingly here. So as we can see here, we have accelerated configuration, and we can decide if we want to set that as required or not, and the type and the update that could be required. Then we also have access control. We have analytics configurations, bucket encryption, bucket name, and you can see all of the sub configurations under each of these properties. So for example, cause configuration and intelligent tiering configurations, you can see below them the various sub properties such as setting it to be required, and looking at the type that is in place, etc. So these are properties that you can also specify within your CloudFormation template, and I'll touch on that in just a moment. But yes, just ensure that you refer to this documentation as we continue with this video. All right, so what you would need to do now, of course, is create a CloudFormation template. Now, I'm using Visual Studio Code, and all I've done is I've gone on ahead and created a folder, and in that folder I created a create-s3-bucket.yaml file, and in this file here, this is going to be acting as my CloudFormation template with the YAML syntax, and here are a few lines of code that I've entered into place. So whenever you are creating a CloudFormation template in YAML, you need to set the resources heading as follows, and under resources you're going to stipulate which resources you want to create in your CloudFormation template. In our case, our logical ID and what we essentially want to create is an S3 bucket. So I set the logical ID here as my S3 bucket. And essentially what we want to create out of all of this is an AWS S3 bucket. And you'll notice here that this particular string value is attached from the following here in that documentation. So we're telling AWS, okay, I want to create an AWS S3 bucket, and I don't want to set any properties here. So I'm going to leave it as an empty object. So as you saw earlier on in the documentation, if I scroll down here, you can set various properties if you so desire. But the good thing here is that you don't need to explicitly set anything. You can just leave it as an empty object. Okay, so this is what the code that you need, the simplest code that you need to create an S3 bucket in YAML. So make sure that you're using a code editor of sorts, for example, like Visual Studio Code, for example, and you just want to create a normal file, and just make sure that you have the .yaml extension at the end of that file. You can give it any name that you wish. Create-s3-bucket. Okay, this is just a file name that I chose. You can give it any name that you wish. Just make sure at the end that you add .yaml as the extension and that you have the following code in that file. Very important that you have that. And this is the code that you need for creating a simple S3 bucket via CloudFormation in your template. Okay, so what we can do is head on to the AWS Management Console, and you want to go to CloudFormation. So you can just type in CloudFormation, it will auto-complete. So here we have it. We can click on that service. Okay, and I'm going to click on CloudFormation here, okay, because I'm going to assume it's the first time you're using CloudFormation. And what we need to do is we need to create a stack. So essentially, whenever we want to create a template of sorts with our own resources that we define, we need to create a CloudFormation stack as the backbone and structure. So you can say create stack, and we need to follow the setup wizard here. So step 1 is create a stack, step 2 specify stack details, step 3 configure stack options, and step 4 review and create. So under the prerequisite here for preparing a template, what you want to do is you want to say, okay, I have a template that is ready, and we do. We have that YAML file that we created. Next, we need to specify the template. Now, it can either be from Amazon S3 URL, so technically you can upload your templates to an S3 bucket, secluded one, should I say, and then just go ahead and refer to it. So we're going to upload a template file directly, and we can say choose file. Remember, it needs to be in JSON or YAML, as I specified here in the docs. So I'm going to say choose file. Go to my desktop, and here is my folder that you can see here. It's called my project, and there's my file. So I'm just going to go into my folder and grab that YAML file. So create-s3-bucket and say open. And you want to upload that template file. And as you can see here, it's going to be uploaded in its own bucket, that particular YAML file. All right, so we can now say next. And you want to give your stack a name, so you can click here, and I'm going to call it my S3 demo. You can give it any name that you wish for your stack. Okay, we don't need to define any parameters, just give your stack a name, say next. Now, all of the details here, okay, are a little bit out of scope and a little bit advanced. So the only thing that's quite straightforward here is the tag. You can associate a tag here to refer to as you so desire. Under permissions, we can leave it on the default. Stack failure, we can leave on the default, and everything else we can leave as is. Scroll down and say next. And here you can review if there's anything you want to change, for example, the template or whatnot. You can just say edit and edit the necessary section. So you can just scroll down to the bottom if you're happy with everything. And you can also cancel the process, go to the previous step, or you can say submit. So we're good with everything. So let's say submit. Okay, so as you can see here, our stack is being created, and that is in progress. So you can see the status is create in progress. The ID is my S3 demo, and that's the timestamp for the first event. So all we need to do now is we need to be patient as our S3 bucket gets created via this CloudFormation template that we provided in YAML. So we just need to be a little bit patient and wait for the process. So what you can do in the meantime is you can just refresh here to see those events unfold. And as you can see, the creation was in progress for our S3 bucket. And you can see the ID that we specified in that template known as my S3 bucket. So that is stipulated. And if we scroll down, we can see the status create complete. So everything was created successfully. And for clarification, you can see here on the left that my S3 demo, that stack has been a success and the creation process was completed. So we can click here on stacks and we can see that stack, if we refresh, is active and it has been completed. So now let's head on over to S3. So you can type S3 and click on that there. And we just want to check if that bucket has indeed been created. Okay, scroll down and we can now see here that that bucket has been created, my S3 demo. Just click on that And here we go, we can see that that bucket was successfully created. All right, so that is how you can essentially go on ahead and create an Amazon S3 bucket with CloudFormation. So you can now see that that has been created and we are now working in place, and it's part of my S3 bucket. And that pertains, as you can see here, to the name that we associated with the Amazon S3 bucket that we created with the following logical ID. So you can see it matches accordingly as in place. All right, guys, so that's it for this video tutorial on creating an S3 bucket with CloudFormation. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Thank you and see you.